of the other 42 counties who are competing against everybody to do that. We can give you direction all until the grant cycle actually comes, and then at that point in time, you're on your own. But it took us a long time. I mean, we started Arch started January 22nd, 2004, and since then, it's faded in, it's faded out, but we didn't get our HMIS grant till 2008 and our first real funding until 2011. So we spent a lot of time working, saying, yelling, you know, you give it to all the big cities, give it to the rural counties. Yes.
Does it
You're
help?
next.
Does it help if you have the support of your city and county government?
Absolutely.
Does it expedite it if you got their cooperation?
Public will and the will of your community saying and agreeing will help. Will it expedite? I don't know. I've seen other people, you know, that were bigger and better and, you know, much higher at HUD that have come in and said stuff, but I don't know what it does for your application. I really don't.
Okay, one other. I came in late, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Are there any federal grants that to help supplement? I know in some communities that HUD does they provide any, and the third one is what services? Because most people, not most, a lot of people who are homeless, many times they're veterans with mental problems, or like Mr. Shaw that was killed here. His wife left him with the children and set off a mental illness that lasted for 20 years because he had no intervention. So are there grants for independent services?
There's different types of grants from different federal organizations. We did only find one veteran this year, and he was in a car and he didn't want any help. But at the same time, that's because work has been done. And last year we had many more veterans. In the whole point in time count of unsheltered veterans, we only had 5 across the 42 counties. So last year we had something like 37. With SSVF, which is the supportive services for veteran families, they have teamed up with us and they have managed to get a lot of veterans off the street.
I know that there was at least one other, but I don't, so do you no longer call them, if they receive a dishonorable discharge, that means they're not a veteran? Because there was one guy who was homeless that night that I talked to, and
for a lot of those programs, you cannot receive services. However, if you can work with the DAV and the VA, they can change that around with most circumstances. My son-in-law is disabled with PTSD, and my daughter is his caretaker. He got hit with IDP in Afghanistan or Iraq. He's been both. I get with both anyway. And because of that, he was lucky enough to have support during that time. But people with PTSD act out because of their issues. And sometimes it can be proven that acting out was a result of their PTSD, and then their dishonorable discharge can be changed. And so that is a possibility if that's the case. Sometimes people go AWOL because of it. So there's different things, and if you can really bring the picture in, then it can be changed. Yes.
Sorry about your son, but is there an example of a city or a county in Alabama that's gotten a homeless shelter in the last 5 or 10 years that, you know, maybe we could invite to some or something, have some sort of conversation about how they did it?
There hasn't been an application for bricks and mortar in at least 5 years.
All of Alabama.
There was some rehab done in one of the shelters in Montgomery, and another one got some small. But as far as somebody else getting bricks and mortar, I haven't seen that. But I have to tell you, everybody knows that Selma needs a shelter. And so when you're putting those things together, people are going to be rooting for someone to get a shelter. I just the way I see it.
so it seems to me, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, that two things that we can sort of focus on outside of looking at the sort of grant information, is one, you said you need matching funds. And so maybe we can focus on raising funds.
Especially if you're going to go for that shelter. Plus, some of the other things that you had talked about that I've seen, heard in conversation, is a big house with, you got quite a few mansions around that aren't being used for much of anything. Not that that's the ultimate way to go. And if you want to have a building for men and a building for women or a building for families, you can't really put all three together.
Sure.
And so that's the things that you have to think about when you're putting this together. So your numbers, even though it's scary to have families on the street, your numbers are showing more single people. And so, the bigger bang for your buck would be go with single males quick. Then if you can keep going and everything's working, then add the women, add women and children, add families. It's a difficult situation to do families, but there are a few, if you, can't think of the name of it, but it's only been open for about 5 years, and it's it's right off of Bell Street in Montgomery. And it is a transitional housing program for women with children, and it's a huge building, and everybody has their little apartment with a communal cooking area. And I would say that would be a place to look if you want to do something for families.
Does in-kind count towards the matching?
Yes. Yes. And you have to check with them on how much per hour, everything. Now, if you have a person like a lawyer or an accountant that's helping you, and they're helping you with what they do, then whatever it is that's a normal fee in your area can be charged from the per hour as in kind. But also, there's different, most of them go with minimum wage or like $5 or $10 an hour when it comes to in kind for us who are, running the street.
What about the contribution of a property? Would that count towards in kind?
Yes.
Any other questions? So this is the thing. We have to get more hands involved, more congregations and institutions involved, and more our government involved for this to really work. What I've heard, because I was not living here then, is that part of the problem with getting a homeless shelter in the past is that then, one organization would try to do it, or another organization would try to do it, but there wasn't a collective to try to do it. And whether it's because of liability insurance or some other reason, it was too much to bear for one organization. Is that
That's my understanding.
And so we need more hands on deck to make this work. But we also need someone to, for this to be someone's baby. I have a lot of babies already, and including one who's sick at home right now. And so I don't know if there's someone here who is passionate about this issue, who is willing to sort of help shape and mold where we go from here. Because the thing is that we always come to meetings, but nothing gets done if people don't step up. And then we'll be meeting for years to come, and we still won't have a homeless shelter. And nobody can do this on their own. But someone does have to say, well, I'll look into this. Maybe I won't convene everybody, but I'll look into this, or volunteer for specific things, or I'll make sure that I get 2 other churches on board, or something concrete. Because if something concrete doesn't leave, if we don't leave here with anything but another meeting date, that's all we will ever leave with.
Well, part of the problem, Inka, in my humble opinion, is there's no will in the community for